Here's my game, but it sucks. Like, look at this. Do you really think this looks enjoyable to play? I'll be honest. I took a break, and once I returned, I was able to notice so many different problems with the state of the game. First of all, player movement had to be completely rewritten. This is a problem I noticed while developing my other game, Looped. The physics were sometimes wonky, and climbing was quite inconsistent. While I could apply band-aid fixes to them, I think it's smarter to completely rebuild a player controller from scratch in the long run. Movement now feels much more smoother, responsive, and the slide actually works properly now as well. One of my focuses was increasing juiciness in my game. The concept of juiciness refers to having multiple non-functional reactions when a player triggers an action. This basically means adding cool effects to make the game feel more real and exciting. Let's take a look at this example with sliding. With just the core mechanics implemented, we see a rather boring, floaty sliding system. Now, let's add some juice to it. I added camera tilt motion, and then a camera animation when initiating a slide, and then finally, dynamic FOV effect. In comparison, we notice that sliding seems so much more fun now. It's important to understand this concept properly because increasing juiciness should not have a functional change in the game. Having enough juiciness in movement mechanics was crucial. This will motivate the player to constantly try out more complex movement mechanics. As you can probably tell by now, the graphics of Project Terminal have also improved massively. I've switched from reworte to HDRP render pipeline, and mostly this is because of the map changes. I'll be explaining this change in a future video in depth. Now let's talk about the enemies in the game, as well as combat mechanics. In my previous video, I've introduced a blade wielding enemy. But like, come on guys, what even is this? This clip almost looks like as if the player is forcing the enemy to fight. It was imperfect, to say the least, and I mostly thought this was due to the enemy not trained enough. I've spent countless hours training and trying out different configurations. While I was able to get somewhat convincing results, this happened.
Alright, so it's 8 AM in the morning. I just woke up and I trained these AI overnight, and I've realized as soon as one enemy AI starts attacking, the other enemy AI, the only thing that the other enemy AI can do is just keep blocking. Because there's no way to fight back. Because as soon as this AI stops blocking, then he will just instantly get comboed by this guy. So yeah, that's...
Besides, you can tell the enemies are also quite jittery. This could be fixed when trained for a longer time and forcing the AI to prevent unnecessary jitter, but oh well, I had a better solution. I just decided to code the AI on my own. Yeah, it had to be done. I initially wanted to train the enemies to behave more intelligently, like working together to attack the player, without having to code this all myself. Basically laziness. To be honest, it wasn't even that difficult to code the enemy logic, and the result is not too bad, I'd say. This is how it works. Whenever there's a group of enemies together, they would fight the player one by one, while others remain in combat stance and follow the player in distance. This is to ensure that the player is not bullied by multiple enemies at once, making it impossible for the player to attack back. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the complex behavior I was talking about. To be completely honest, I hadn't even thought of the enemy behavior until I made the decision to code the enemy logic on my own. Anyways, there are also some changes regarding the enemy attacking behavior as well. In addition to just simply blocking players' attacks, enemies also have an ability to dodge players' attack by quickly moving backwards. I then noticed a problem with the player's combat. First thing I tried was to finish and polish the blocking mechanism. Alright, so I kind of got the blocking system done now. So as you can see, I can initiate the block, and as long as I'm holding the block button, I'm basically blocking all the attack. It works for different directions as well, which I think is pretty cool. It's definitely still lacking some of the juiciness. I think I need to add some image effects on top of this to make the blocking a little bit more impactful and satisfying. So I did. This was decent, but there was another problem. I think combat in general also feels quite sluggish. Like, there's a little too much delay and the attacks are generally too slow for a fast-paced game like this. So I first reduced the delay between the attacks and generally made the attacks faster. At this point, I don't know how many times I'm making the attacks faster. Once that was done, in order to make the blocking system feel more integrated, I added combo attacks that players could perform when they successfully block an enemy's attack. These attacks happen much quicker than regular attacks, giving players an advantage over regular attacking. Here's when I encountered a problem. All the fighting occurs while the player stays still. To prevent this, I also added comboing after the player had dashed. This could then be used in scenarios like this.
Editor coder here. There's actually another feature in the game that I forgot to mention in the script, and that is pushing enemies. So if by any chance you don't want to engage in a fight, then you can just push enemies away from you. Yeah.
There you go. I took a break from working on Project Terminal. When I came back, I realized I had to rewrite almost the entire game. That's why there hadn't been a Project Terminal devlog for a while. I know I've been uploading really inconsistently recently, but I'll be trying hard to change that. This has been Semicoder. I kind of know how to code.